Thank you for joining us in the cybersphere for the Tiny Spoon virtual release party for our 4th issue, Memory. Our issue explores what is remembered, forgotten, misremembered, and repressed through experimental poetry, prose, art, and hybrid pieces. 10 of our contributors will read from their work that appears in this issue, released in the summer of 2020. We hope you enjoy.
Google Earth, Street View, my childhood home. The first thing I know is that this house is safe. The 2 pine trees in the front yard that were once diminutive and powerless to fend off the incisors of the northern wind, like lapdogs trembling behind the furniture as the home is ransacked by intruders, have become guardians, winged emerald gatekeepers that cast cool, benevolent shadows out onto the grass and over the knotted fence. The drone image does not need to tell me it is April. I feel April in the tentative sunlight, in the anticipation of the basketball hoop that still hangs above the garage, in that peculiar shade of virgin green on the birch trees in the alley. The colored dress Persephone must have worn when she emerged from the underworld. The drone image does not need to tell me that the fragrance of tulips graces the air like a dab of perfume on the surface of the plain, that if I sink my hands into the musty soil, I might find another abandoned arrowhead among the nascent bulbs. The drone image does not need to tell me that there are children inside the house and that they dream of ponies and enchanted forests when they sleep at night, not murderers and hellfire. This house was once an open sore, but I see now that it is healed by the salve of the cloudless blue sky, pale jet streams like sutures, the southern breeze, and anodyne. This house was once a battlefield, but I see now that it is a spray of peach roses upon a quiet grave, a red, cedar-paneled memorial of forgiveness.
Hello, my name is Aerik Francis, and the poem I'm going to be reading today is called Remembering Redux. My memory doesn't hold her image, but I know my first is her, open-armed at the foot of those brown carpeted stairs. My mind's film keeps jumbling the scenes. Everyone said I kept refusing kisses and generosity. I say I've been to New York City once, only because they say I toddled in Spanish Harlem, Celia Cruz, and rice and peas spoon-fed. My memory, doesn't it taste familiar, these foods? My body takes sips of imagination inside neurons, flowering with tongue flick, gleaning the scent of mothballs, woolen socks in the armoire. It's hard to separate the wind who closes the door from my always visiting uncle. Aunt Lola, the monarch butterfly from the windowsill, landing atop another giant shoulder. Sip blue electric and see him float away on vacation homebound. I've been to Puerto Rico for a few minutes. My grandma kept the hair curler from the drugstore. My memory doesn't hold her image, but I feel that energy ripple inside. I taste those pinto beans, those ones destoned by hand and handled with ham hock. I taste that bitterness of grief, incomplete of longing for more time, more memory, more than just a passing whiff. My body, a maple puzzle box. these frustrating slabs. Why, body, did you make me a man who senses?
Hi everybody, my name is Tanisha Rao and today I will be reading out my poem An Ode to Bombay after Dilip Chitra's Ode to Bombay. A tepid sun pours golden midday. Dark, tired feet peek out from the cool back seat of a Kali Pili. Tar roads lurch and the seconds expand noisily like the din of railway metal. You reckless city, where hope travels for free on the backs of buses and crawling dusty lorries, on the backs of laborers and inner city dwellers. Your dream lays unraveled and silken, shimmering, like the air above the cracked run, like the shared night sky with its stars, its slumped pearls bob, like starched cotton undulating on clotheslines. Vast and saline, you welcome one body and then the next. Nameless faces, faceless blurs, a polyphonic capital that scratches at her whiskers. Hear the husky call of a siren, ambivalent Nike, venerable God, presiding over her islanders, knowing and sanguine. Thank you.
I'm Molly Murray, and this is Elegies, Wildwood. As you can see, my mind is brambles, a thorny, tangled hedge sparrow thoughts escape. Elegies. The cells hold room for grief, writing elegies across my body that ricochet in pain. Upstream. Let go of the lesions they burned into you. Watch them drift away like feathers.
Incognitum by Nicholas Alexander Hayes. 1. The incognitum moves its long jutting incisors into the riverbed, shoveling silt into barren fields. Birds sing as they wait for worms to wiggle from sloppy mud. They hover and dart as wriggling heads poke their way out from the water-stained earth. Finches become the harbingers of little deaths, letting their teeth press into but not puncture the long Pliocene invertebrates. Red poppies begin to grow, their petals unfold like tissue paper as the wind combs through the long grasses that stretch from horizon to horizon. The incognitum continues lifting its trunk above its tusks and trumpeting the mournful strain of the prey who has not yet found its proper predator. It steps into the hollow. Millennia pass. The incognitum sits in the damp enclosure, letting its toe pads freeze in the mud. It uses its trunk to strike matches on its incisors. Small explosions momentarily make the large brown eye glisten before dying out and letting shadows rush back over its body. It listens to the slow drop of water falling against shit-like stalagmites. It strikes another match and lets this one burn out too, disappointed that it is not yet fossilized. 2. Water in the glass on your nightstand ripples. You awaken to the heavy breathing of the moment. The incognitum brushes past the skirt of your bed. Its footpads lift and fall with awkward and deliberate fortitude. It moves across the bedroom floor in the morning shadows. You can't make out its mass, but it leaves fossilized teeth and tusk fragments in its wake. Be certain, even if you must tidy up after, it will always survive. It plods into the living room. Shag carpeting muffles the sound of footfalls. It raises its trunk to smell behind the sofa cushions, running the sensitive tip over coarse fabric. Teeth jutting from the lower jaw lift the sofa. An active memory, not expected from an animal looking for keys.
Hey, it's Matt Freeman here. I am so delighted to do this and to be in Tiny Spoon. And I'm down here in Carbondale with my sister. Don't have all my poems with me, but I have all the new poems I've written. So I thought I'd read you a couple I wrote very recently, and I hope you like them. And again, thanks for having me. This is called Switch Hitter. There's a little bird washing herself in the rainwater in the gutter. She chirps a bit and flashes her wings, indicating that there's something wrong with me emotionally. My sister was such a dreamer. She had an imaginary friend named Jenna, and it was strange because we didn't know anyone named Jenna. I was a Beatles freak who had to keep the fluid of her house in order. I read John Calvin. We're stuck inside Carbondale now, where my sister teaches at the university and I write poems in a trance. I feel guilty about it. Today on my walk, I passed a woman ensconced in a thick bower, asking all kinds of questions and being answered either by the devil or someone on a smartphone. They castigated me for being on SSI. Thank you. Thank you. And the next one is called All In. These, of course, are true stories and hopefully fun. All In. I kissed every teacher's ass from K to 12. Look where it got me. Now I marvel at some wealthy peers who couldn't pass simple algebra. When I first met my buddy Chief, I was so impressed that he read Kerouac and studied math. We cruise about now, like we always have, before he had a family and a high-class job. We cruise in the old red truck in which we can smoke at will and remember the times we blasted Tribe. I do so little that when we do, it almost has me coffined. I shall friend my former teachers on Facebook. I will ask them if they're surprised I gave everything to language. So that's it. Thanks again to everybody, and I hope everybody's safe and healthy.
Lie Slaw Swami Hissing Pant a Gauze by Janis Butler Holm. Lie Slaw Swami Hissing Pant a Gauze, Plunder Wreath da Thistlebow Mast Fight. Tree Squid Hunt She Tea Bleep, Brown da Wares Blue Calve a Heap. Tree Jot Mat Lie Cause Ducked Pup, Gin by Red Gloom Cast a Peep. When Lie Slaw Swami Nickel Pant a Gauze, Plunder Wreath Fizz Weird Go Showy Bite. Mo Squat a Staff, Pit Good Calved In, Riff Caddy Cad Lonely Sheen, Swami Hissing Pant a Gauze Mast Fight.
Hi, I'm Nicole Callihan, and this is called Carried Away. As in, the girl got carried away by her pity, or the music carried him away. First person plural, in Paris, we got carried away. Second person singular, you are getting carried away. He is, I am, they, she, it. my mother, a child on someone's shoulders. In 6th grade, I loved a boy named Brian Word. Word. I loved that his last name was Word, like a thing, I said, but not. This was before these two meant the same to me. Brian Word loved me too. And though 3 decades later, he would believe that Newtown was a conspiracy and post photos of himself with so many guns that he would gain the status of one of only 2 men I have ever unfriended on Facebook, I cannot tell you how heartbroken I felt that November so long ago when, after 2 weeks of going together, Brian Word told me he just wanted to be friends. Though only 11, I had been carried away by our love, and then just as swiftly, I was carried away by my heartbreak. I wrote Brian Word a sprawling note, my eyes dotted with hearts, to slip to him between classes. It had to do with tears, so many shed that the polar ice caps would melt, heavy-handed, yes, but also, perhaps, prescient. The world would flood. Yes, my 6th grade heartbreak caused by Brian Word would be the precipitous event that caused the disappearance of humans. He called me a crazy bitch, the first time I would be called such a thing. In other words, we both got carried away. And yet, allowing for the possibility that in fact Brian Word had never broken up with me, would I stand this morning on the outskirts of Tulsa in the cold, still dark as he packed his truck for the last day of muzzle loading in deer season? Would I hand him the coffee I had poured and sugared for him? Would I want the kiss he offered? And how long would I stand watching his taillights move away, pulling my gown tighter? What would I think as I searched the sky for stars and strained my ears for the silencing of the engine? I don't know. In this way, we are human. We can never know until, in fact, we know. Thanks.
A new theory. Tell me about Blaise Pascal and his new theory about sexism. I need to forget something. While the edge of foam dehydrates on the glass, talk to me. It's time for another beer. Let my mind be taken elsewhere away from the chimeras that beset its weaknesses. Are you a chaser? If you could, with this lighter, drive out the dragons I have inside, far they fear the flames, so that they fly beyond the night clouds, patiently. I pull words from my throat all the way down to the sacrum, meanwhile you talk to me. But please continue. Be my distraction that time expands. Be my therapist in your own extreme ways, and the oblivion of nothingness, a perfect cure. Tell me and make me forget the everyday everything that everyone needs, because I always have been suspicious about Pascal as a way to remember.
Les rétrécissements de l'espace vêtu, hommage à Samir Kassir et Ludwig Binswanger. They tell about creators with unknown futures, swarming in the fleeting nights of Beirut. They feed on dust and salt, corrupting the bowels, with grammatical residues and astral decompositions. They chase the slow flow of the tides, traveling backwards across the borders of land now abandoned by the ancient masters. They are wandering around, the creatures, among the white alcoves of frightened virgins, freeing themselves from a bleak and uncertain future. They go around and stop in the historical uncertainty of worn sheets, unfolding with an instinctive ferocity a desire for immortality.
Lost Memory, Lost in Memories, hommage à Samir Kassir et Ludwig Binswanger. We live in socio-cultural context increasingly deleting spatial and temporal parameters in which the concept of ikatnung is constantly overwhelmed by the need to go further, to pursue a constant and pervasive idea of feasibility. Sometimes willing and able to market time and space, believing we can have a wider range of possibilities, which do not always coincide with an equal number of opportunities. All this happens at the expense of increasingly narrow perimeters and contexts, increasingly small, within which the here and now assumes connotation of an elusive present, quick in appearing and becoming confused in subsequent ones, without asking for anything, without leaving anything. Ideologies and empathy developed and evaporate in the short-term, renouncing fragile the reconstruction of an identity structure that we are slowly leaving behind. Nothing at this point takes one a more concrete outline of a real and available interdisciplinary dialogue between two parties, between what we are experiencing and what we have already experienced, between what we are and what we have been, willing to evolve with a synergistic understanding what we really want to be, has the need to explore the concept of memory as a starting point, as the source of a range of future identity constructs, through which it's better understood the meaning of the past, telling more about ourselves than we are willing to do. Memory, as the result of a sum of presence in continuous and inexhaustible becoming, represent the opportunity for sharing and remembering within a generational perspective, increasingly more and more involved in international large-scale context, the helpness of be after being. So, the Lebanese-French intellectual and journalist Aerik Francis defined Arab unhappiness and by summarizing, in an ever more distant way, the focus of a general malaise as a manifest of identity crisis that permeates people and people in relation to the absence of memories and or the non-recognition of the same. To resist, to maintain a principle of reality and identity, it therefore becomes necessary to require one's own memories and those universally given as a result of a profound and empathetic structural investigation with the aim of positively projecting into the future through a genuine access of the ideological and temporal concept of border.